about to take a trip across the sea. We're going to spend some time with Teresa Tomeo and find out everything that's going on with her. Teresa, of course, the author of Italy's Shrines and Wonders, Discovering Sacred Spaces, Fascinating Places and Destinations Off the Beaten Path. She wrote this book between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. because she's busy the rest of the day. I don't know how in the world you do it all. Good morning, Teresa.
Boy, were you reading my mind? When I wrote that book, I wrote it so quickly, it probably did happen, kind of like with Matthew Bunson, the way he cranks out his papal book that's beautifully with me on a little bit later on with Catholic Connection. How are you guys? We're doing well here over in Bella Italia.
Yeah, we're doing fabulous over here, but always a little bit jealous of you over there.
Yeah, we don't have wine or gelato at our disposal.
Yeah.
Well, you have it, but it's just not as good. That's I
don't even think it's in the same universe, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's you can't even compare it. But no, this is an exciting week to talk because of this weekend we have the beautiful feast of Corpus Christi coming up on Sunday, and Deacon Dom and I actually over the weekend went down to Bolsena, which is in northern Lazio, where the Eucharistic miracle happened. Now, the corporal and the host that bled on the corporal on the altar at Santa Cristina's is actually housed, as we know, in Orvieto in the cathedral there. But we hadn't been back to Lago di Bolsena in a while, and what's nice about living in central Italy is you can get to anywhere pretty quickly, and it's only about an hour from our place. And so we actually stayed, as I posted on my Facebook page yesterday, in this little town called the Civita, Bagno Reggio, which is known as the floating or the dying city, because it sits on top of a mountain, and the land beneath it is crumbling, so it keeps getting smaller and smaller. St. Bonaventure was born there, and then 15 minutes away is Lake Bolsena, which is a great little retreat you could take from Rome. But most importantly, it's the home of the Church of Santa Cristina, of course, the martyr, and that is where the Mass took place, where the priest from Prague, who was doubting the real presence, had that experience during the Mass. You can see the altar where it actually happened. It's preserved there. And then they had exposed, guys, this is so cool. This is the first time we've seen this. There's a special altar next to the altar where it happened, where they actually have panels from the altar stones on which the blood from the Eucharist, the Lord's blood, bled onto the altar. And so that they've preserved those. And there's 4 panels that are behind another altar that were open for viewing and veneration. So I've got some pictures of that I'll be posting on Facebook. But it's really something to be in the place where it happened, then know you can go to Orvieto, actually witness and see the corporal and the host. So pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, just the richness of our faith. Teresa, I want to take you kind of in a different direction this morning. We're talking about all the things you're involved in, of course, the series on EWTN Saints in Italy. You've got the book that is out. Obviously, you have come to know Italy in such an intimate way that you've moved there and really become a part of the place for the benefit of all of us who travel there. What kind of led you? I've heard the story of what brought you into the faith, but what brought about that importance of travel and pilgrimage for you?
Well, I think I've always loved to travel. I got the bug from my father, who was a merchant marine, and he traveled all over the world for 18 years on the SS United States, and he had seen so much of the world, and he was telling me all these different stories, and I just was so close to my father, and so I would literally sit his knee and hear these stories of travel. And then because I was so close to my father, who was very Italian, my mother's Italian as well, but my father really embraced the nationality more, spoke the language fluently. It was his first language. His whole family spoke Italian. And so the first time we came here, there was that connection both to the faith, obviously, first and foremost, because the Catholic Church is central here. And then with me and Dominic both being 100% Italian, tracing our heritage back several centuries, it just all kind of clicked for us. And we were traveling before. We loved to go to northern Michigan and go to Mackinac Island, do cruises and go visit friends in Florida or across the country. But then once we came to Italy, it was just different, just hit us differently. And we just felt we wanted to explore. And being Catholic, and Dominic studied the diaconate, we just wanted to learn more about the saints. And there's so many saints across Italy. I mean, in our region, Umbria, there's 35 saints alone that are buried here. But it's a combination of our family background, our heritage, and most importantly, our faith heritage. And the travel bug really started with me and my father as a little girl.
So much we can learn from our elder brothers and sisters in the faith. So many sacrifices made along the way. But I also wanted to talk to you, there's been such an energy going on, not only there in Italy, but particularly there in Italy, obviously with the election of Pope Leo XIV. We know that that's going to subside a bit. Have you begun to see the crowds lessening? Is everything staying about the same? What's your experience right now as you travel about?
No crowd subsiding, Dave. As a matter of fact, it seems like it's getting
Yeah.
busier. Yeah, it's really, really crowded. And over the weekend, on Saturday for the Vigil Mass or Pentecost, there was 70,000 plus people in St. Peter's Square, and then another huge crowd on Sunday for the Angelus, or the last Regina Coeli, now being the Angelus coming out of the Easter season, and of course the Mass there for Pentecost. So obviously those are special events, so they're always going to be larger. But I'm not hearing anything about the crowds getting smaller. Now, I'll be able to give you more of a detailed account on Tuesday, God willing, because Deacon Dom and I are traveling by train down to Rome over the weekend. We're going to go visit some of our friends at EWTN, but also we have tickets for a very special exhibit, a Caravaggio exhibit that's on for a short time in Rome. And I'll get a sense, because we're going to try to make the Angelus on Sunday. We'll go to Mass on Saturday night, the Vigil Mass, and then we're going to go to St. Peter's Square and see how crowded it is. So I'll be able to give you a sense of what it's like. But from what I'm hearing from Joan and my other friends in Rome, it just keeps getting busier, and the Pope is drawing tens of thousands of people every single place he goes.
Teresa, are there do people, like when they have these weekend masses, like the Mass of Pentecost and the Corpus Christi, those kinds of things, are those held in the square or are those in St. Peter's, so it's a limited crowd, or do they set up screens so people can be in the piazza and see it, the plaza?
They actually do both, Pat. They're not in St. Peter's in the church. They're outside in the warmer weather, because if you saw the video from last weekend, you may have seen the Pope sitting there, has set up an altar below the loggia, the main balcony of St. Peter's. Sometimes they do have it both inside and outside. But when they have all that capacity for seating and the Pope is outside, then the people are going to be out there with the Pope. So all of St. Peter's was filled. And then what you have are the Jumbotrons up and down the main avenue, which is the Via della Conciliazione. So it goes all the way down, practically, it's amazing, to the Tiber River. So literally you could, and let's say you showed up late for Mass on Sunday, if you want to get a seat, you have to get there super early. If you want to sit in St. Peter's Square, you have to go to security. But you could literally show up and just stand along the Via della Conciliazione and be present. You'll hear the Holy Father and be there for Mass, because they do distribute communion in different areas. So, but they usually in the warmer weather, if they can hold it outside, they will. And normally with the Pope's inside, that's held for Christmas time, Christmas Eve, and then it may spill out onto St. Peter's Square if the weather cooperates. But right now they're having pretty much everything outside.
Okay, that's great.
Teresa, how do people follow you? Now, we know we go to teresatomeo.com, find out what you're up to, but if somebody wanted to be a part, and in particular, a part of a pilgrimage that you're leading or a part of, how do they get information about that?
I think that the best way really is the website, Dave, as you've mentioned before. Either I've got two. We've got travelitalyexpert.com, which is all about Italy, obviously, and that's where I do the consultation service if people are interested in that. But also teresatomeo.com, and there's the event schedule, and it has some of the events that are coming up. I've got two local events, actually three local events. One in early August, the Grand Hotel Getaway with Corporate Travel, and then I have two speaking events for women in the end of August and early September. So I'm really excited about that. I'll be doing some stuff locally. And then we come back here in September right after those talks, because we have to apply for our permit again. And that's always the fun part, learning to get used to all the government regulations. So it's going to be back and forth for us a little bit. But teresatomeo.com to keep track of my schedule.
teresatomeo.com. Now I'll tell you a little game we play here at Morning Offering with Pat, Ron, and Dave. We have a very busy Bishop Thomas, who's fabulous, wonderful, always out amongst his people. We compare his calendar to yours. You're both very busy people, and we just want to know who's busier. And so we're having fun with that. We'll let you know. I don't know. I'm having a hard time keeping up with where you're going. Tell Deacon Dom we said hello. Thank you to both of you for all that you do.
God
bless you, Teresa.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, Teresa.
Ciao, ciao.